first of all, give us a little bit of a history lesson. A century ago, Thomas Edison tried to pioneer this technology. What were the limits that he hit on?
Well, it's exciting that 100 years ago he filed the first patent, right? And the issue for zinc being one of the most safe material is the issue of rechargeability. The problem with zinc, as you try to recharge it, it grows these things called dendrites that shorts out the battery, and that problem could never be solved.
So lithium ion is responsible for all sorts of environmentally friendly technologies, from wind turbines to solar panels. Remind us what the problem is with them.
Well, if you think of lithium, lithium ion actually requires cobalt. So lithium is a combination of two rarely available metals. Cobalt is very toxic. It's mined, sadly, in the Congo. Lithium, when you put it together, requires cooling. It's expensive, and it creates fires with explosions. So there's multiple downsides to the issue of lithium, and I think zinc will be the new lithium.
Well, but surely the supply of zinc is not abundant and endless. You know, I've seen some predictions that there's maybe a 20 or 25-year supply. You know, how do you go about sourcing zinc responsibly?
Zinc is one of the most abundant mineral metals. It's 24th most abundant metals on the Earth's crust. So unlike lithium or cobalt, it's not only abundant, it's actually essential for you and I to live. It's essential for prenatal growth. It's essential for all your living cells. It's actually essential for you to make insulin. So it's one of these materials that is not only natural. If you combine it with natural occurring oxygen, photons from the sun, you have entirely green energy.
So Patrick, talk about the applications of the new batteries. Do you expect that we see those deployed by utilities in our electric automobiles soon? Where does NantEnergy view the first application?
Well, the first application we think is, and we've done this, by going into countries that actually, if you look at the map at night, Africa and Asia, there's no electricity. So imagine giving a child the ability to read at night instead of a kerosene lamp. And so diesel, kerosene, lead acid, these are the things we want to replace right off the bat. And we can do that, have done that. We are now in 110 communities where, frankly, 110 villages where 200,000 people are completely off the grid. Where we're going next is also cell towers. And if you look at cell towers, one of the most exciting stories for us is that Duke Energy, and that was just reported yesterday in the New York Times, Duke Energy has now decided to give 13 acres of land back because our system has been running there through Florence and even through Irma. And now that the ability for cell towers, and we have over 1,000 cell towers deployed, including in Mexico. With 5G coming, and there's going to be a need for a great number of cell towers. The ability to put cell towers completely off the grid is a very exciting opportunity.
So Patrick, a hard pivot, as we call it in the news business. I want to just talk briefly about your ownership of the LA Times, which you took over earlier this year. What are your plans for the iconic paper?
Well, I think it is an iconic paper. It's a 136-year-old paper that we actually not only need to grow but thrive, and I think we need to go from a paper to a media, and that's what we'll be doing. But more importantly, continue to build what I consider great stories, great journalism, great investigative reporting. And I'm really proud about the people that stayed, and more excited by the work that Norm has done, Norm Pearlstein, the executive editor, and has helped now recruit some very exciting talent to the paper. So we're on the spree to hire and bring on the best talent and actually make this a very strong paper again.
And briefly, earlier this week, I heard you call social media a cancer on society. I can't imagine that the online discussion this week around events in Washington and elsewhere has changed your mind about that.
No, look, I think to be clear, it's really more deep than that. It's the issue of fake news. And the idea of fake news being the cancer, and the idea of how do we actually, because of social media, spread information and as a form of metastasis. And the idea then, if we can actually differentiate truth and from fake news, it is so important for the democracy. You know, I come from apartheid. I've lived in apartheid, understand how important we need to actually provide important, truthful information. And because of the unintended consequences of social media was modeled as an advertising model, how do you differentiate from opinion advertising versus actually truthful news?